Hi everyone, welcome to episode 15 of When Tomorrow Comes. On a very hot day in London, which is lovely. Joined this week, we have a special guest with Ben Coles, he's Chief Executive of Wrenbridge. Good morning, Ben, thanks for joining us.
Morning.
And then we've got a good lineup from Iceni. So we've got Charlie and Rob, who are the authors of this week's article for us. And we've got Dan Jestico, my usual resident on the vlog, ready to give his oversight on all things strategic as well. So thanks for joining us, guys. Charlie, maybe you could just introduce the kind of subject matter of your article for those that haven't had a chance to read it, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Ian. So this week we did our article primarily on data centers. The reason being was it sort of came about with the lockdown, and we use the internet every day with work, and this has exploded in terms of the demand and use. And often we don't really think about how the internet and the use of data actually works and affects sort of the urban environment. So when looking at sort of the data centers, we're doing a little bit in terms of with clients at work at the minute, and we're thinking it's quite underappreciated and underlooked in terms of their role in society and the built form. So we just set out really what they are, also sort of how they work and sort of what they relate to, and we also sort of discussed sort of more exciting elements in terms of what they could be used for in the future, in terms of sort of the larger scale, that's in terms of the traditional larger sort of shed type sort of data centers that you see, and then also the more localized smaller edge data centers within our cities, all of which will sort of contribute towards sort of enabling or helping contribute towards when the future comes, which is sort of the title of these blogs.
So Ben, I'm guessing that Wrenbridge have had a pretty busy lockdown period so far. It'd be useful just to get your thoughts on the storage and distribution market generally, but also then just to get an understanding from you as to how much of a business interest data centers, both big and small, is to Wrenbridge.
Yeah, no problem. So with lockdown over the last 3 or 4 months, our focus has been on achieving things. So we've gone and got planning permission where we can, we put applications in when we can, and we've actually successfully stayed on site safely and built a number of schemes where we can as well. So we're sort of attacking the industrial logistics market from all angles, where we can make progress basically, and where we can build things. We're starting to get new things under offer. We sold something on Friday to an institution as well, and we're hoping to sell something on Tuesday next week to another institution. So we're seeing sort of more activity in the buying and selling market than we saw in the very, very early eye of the storm part of lockdown. So yeah, we're busy. We've got 28 projects. About 23 of them are warehouse logistics projects. They're all over the southeast, predominantly, ranging from Crawley up to Cambridge, out to High Wycombe, and across to Aylesford and Ken, where we've got a couple of projects. And then there's clusters around Dartford and Belvedere as well. So we're pretty busy. The team of guys and girls say they're as busy as they've ever been, even in lockdown. So yeah, it's a pretty good market, and my own personal view is that if there's a recession, which there probably will be, it will be a sector-led recession, and that won't include warehouses and logistics, which will be really resilient over the coming years. And then moving to the second point of your question, which is data centers, it's an absolutely clear booming market where there's loads of requirements out there for data centers at the moment. It's one of the most active, in addition, alongside parcel delivery and some of the other winners out of a lockdown. Data centers, are a massive winner. Online shopping, gaming, entertainment, Zoom calls like these, everything going on the cloud, they're becoming increasingly important. So it's an area that we are 100% keen to explore and work with the sort of macro and micro or edge operators.
Thanks, Ben. Rob, it won't be lost on you that in a delicious dose of irony, we've had problems with our servers today. So wonderful timing for this article, or this episode, I should say. I guess when we think about traditional infrastructure and distribution, we're thinking more about road networks. But of course, when we're thinking about data, there's different requirements, different criteria to which going to direct us to particular locations. And off the back of your and Charlie's email this morning, I've had various people sort of saying, oh, is this coming to a location near me? And reality is, I know that some of these areas aren't probably going to work. What's the kind of the guiding criteria, both for big data and then the edge data?
Well, in terms of traditional data centers, power has always been seen as sort of the key thing in terms of actually delivering the amount of electricity to site. They obviously need to be functioning 24 hours a day, which is a requirement for pretty much every modern data center now. It's also key to edge data centers as well, but obviously on a slightly different scale. I think what I'm really excited about the edge data center model is that we're going to start to see these things integrated into existing communities. And the benefit for that is potentially they're going to start being a catalyst for future development. So, you know, they are going to become infrastructure in their own right to actually facilitate future development. And I think as we see the clustering around them, that's really exciting as a sector.
So Dan, on edge, if we stick with edge first, because we're obviously giving quite a bit of thought to this because of the work we're doing in London with IPS on their lock-up garage portfolio. Communities expect their phones and their internet connections to work all the time. This is almost silent, isn't it? It's hidden technology, or hidden infrastructure, I should say, that provides the technology. But are communities ready to see these things coming into their backyards?
Good question. Having seen a few data centers myself, they're pretty uninspiring structures. They're highly secure. They're very well sort of guarded and very well set back, and they're basically sheds. So how you design those things in effectively to make them sort of amenable from a placemaking, from an architectural perspective, is really going to be critical in getting people's buy-in from a community side of things. It's like an electricity substation or something like that. It's just a piece of necessary infrastructure to deliver utility services.
So if this was QI, Charlie, the buzzer would have gone off there, because Dan's talked about a great big lumpy shed on the edge of a town, not a small concealed facility in the middle of our communities. I'm guessing you'll give us a different answer.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I could buzz in or not. Thanks for clarifying. I suppose a lot of it comes down to public perception as to what exactly edge data is, and also how it functions. Edge data itself is quite a new concept, as technology sort of has allowed it to sort of become what it is. So it could in terms of its size, it could be from the size of a cupboard to about 200 square feet. And of course, like Rob touched on, it needs access to power, which is quite important, and also fibre connections, alongside a few other points about flood risk, etc. So it's more about, it can easily be concealed in terms of some architecturally, so whether it's a standalone unit or it's integrated with other uses, for example, EV charging or maybe even 5G, which would all contribute towards. And it's all, I think the key thing about it is really selling the benefits. So if it is delivered in your local area, then what that means is you have a lot quicker internet and therefore less latency issues, which is crucial if everyone might be working from home more, not only to address COVID, but also the wider discussions about sustainability and energy usage around traveling to work, etc. And gaming, etc. that Ben touched on. So actually, I suppose architecturally it's not much of an issue, but for me, it's more personally to do with sort of the public image and how we really educate everyone and also sell the benefits to it.
Ben, from your perspective, how much of I don't expect you to give away trade secrets, obviously the way Wrenbridge would approach acquiring sites, but how much of what Wrenbridge will do in this sector will be operator led as opposed to being more speculative? How would you be looking to go about delivering on opportunities?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And again, and you've either got end users like Google and Apple and people like that we could work with, and we are traders predominantly. 90% of the stuff we do, we trade on. So if there's a business plan to go and get planning and then trade it on to a Google or an Apple, or build them a freehold turnkey, or another type of deal, then we would work with operators, end users as well. And then the operators are a little bit more random, and we're trying to track where they're focused on geographically and the size. And the sorts of things that we're doing some research on at the moment are, basically geographical, which is, there's a real hot requirement, a number of requirements from sort of the M3 round to Wembley, and then out from there. And Slough's the sort of epicenter of, where the requirements are going to be. So in answer to your question, we will work with end users like a Google, or operators who are sort of like the equivalent of a data center, business center, that will just sell off their space, in piecemeal, or in a number of parts. But we're from our perspective, we're looking at the geography where we think that's where it's really hot. The fibre lines are coming down the M4 and the A40, so that's why that M3 to Wembley sort of triangle is really relevant. We're looking at sizes where it doesn't really stack up. This is not the edge stuff that you guys have just been talking about. I'm talking about the bigger stuff. But the minimum size to get it to stack up is 4 or 5 acres. And then obviously the guys have already touched on, it's about infrastructure, which is fibre and power. And then it's risks that they won't locate next to a river, or under a flight line, or next to a train line, where there's sort of physical risks. And the other thing that where they're different from warehouses and logistics is they don't need a 40 or 50 metre yard. What they're really after is volume, rather than square feet. So if they could, a lot of the operators would take up to, if you could get planning for it, which is what we're here talking about, they'd take up to a 40 metre high building, because it's about volume. So they're sort of our drivers. We're pretty open-minded about stuff, but that geography, end users or operators, that sort of size site, speed, capacity of power, infrastructure, height, volume, they're all the sort of concoction of things we think about.
And Dan, I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself, because of course what they don't require is lots and lots of traffic distribution either. But one thing I'm fascinated by, and I'll perhaps ask you to reflect on, is if you look at the National Planning Policy Framework, when it talks about infrastructure, it's extremely analog. So it talks about how the lane of road infrastructure could be regarded as an acceptable use in the green belt, but there's very little said about digital forms of infrastructure. So this is a chance for you, Dan, to tell everyone how we need to change planning policy to make the world a better place.
Well, it's infrastructure. There's all sorts of other infrastructure benefits that could arise from data centres. So as you know, data centres use fantastic amounts of energy to process all the data. As a result, they need a lot of cooling. These cooling systems can sort of consume about 10, 20, 30% of the total energy consumed by a data centre. So they generate a lot of heat. This heat can be used to heat buildings, to heat homes, to heat businesses, and by and large, the heat is just dispensed to atmosphere. So by co-locating these things, not just in terms of good locations to power and data and fibre, but actually within sort of nearby residential communities, you can actually use that waste heat to heat people's homes, providing another benefit, which will help these things through the planning system.
So we can have local heating networks as well as local digital networks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very good. Rob, I'm conscious of time. Charlie kind of introduced the subject for us. It feels like I should give you the honour of closing the subject for us. What would be the points you'd like people to take away?
Well, it was really just picking up on what Ben summarised, really, in terms of the requirements, and it strikes me as being spatially minded. You know, it is a very much a sort of plan-focused strategy that we need, and currently it's been completely overlooked, really, by strategic plan making. And ultimately, we need to start looking at this as an infrastructure that can deliver development, it can help facilitate development, and we need to kind of start talking about the modern data center now, I think is the key, and start having these conversations at a sort of higher strategic level.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I always think of it as being a bit like a referee in a football match. You only notice it when it's not working properly. But look, thanks everybody for joining us, particularly you, Ben. I know you're very busy, so thanks for making the time to join us today. I really appreciate the comments. Thanks everybody for watching. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks very much.